I'm Zahir, Kelvin Abdullah, and this is Nightline. The top stories: ex-army chief and wife to face charges on Thursday, while former armed forces chief to be charged on Friday. And MACC raids IJM Corp, freezes 55 bank accounts worth 15.8 million ringgit. The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, MACC, has obtained consent from the Attorney General to prosecute 3 individuals, 2 senior officers of the Malaysian Armed Forces MAF and a civilian, following investigations conducted by the anti-graft body. The individuals concerned include the former Chief of Army, Tan Sri Hafizuddin Jantan, and his wife, Salwani Anwar. The MACC has also obtained consent to prosecute the former Armed Forces Chief, Tan Sri Muhammad Nizam Jaffar, at the Kuala Lumpur Special Corruption Court on Friday. In a statement on Wednesday, the MACC said Hafizuddin and Salwani will each be charged with 4 counts under the Anti-Money Laundering, Anti-Terrorism Financing and Proceeds of Unlawful Activities Act 2001 at the Kuala Lumpur Special Corruption Court. Hafizuddin will also face 2 other charges under the same act at the Shah Alam Special Corruption Court, Selangor, on Friday. Salwani will also be charged with 1 additional offence under the same act at the Jerteh Sessions Court, Terengganu, on Monday. Nizam, meanwhile, will be charged with 2 counts under the same act following investigations into abuse of power and matters involving the Armed Forces Welfare Fund, or TCAT. 1 count of criminal breach of trust under the Penal Code and another also under the Penal Code. The senior officer was remanded for 7 days, while his 2 wives were remanded for 3 and 6 days respectively to assist investigation of a corruption case involving a cartel network for procurement tender. 75 company accounts valued at 32.5 million ringgit have been freezed in Op Parasite since the investigation began on December 23rd. The Prime Minister on Wednesday openly acknowledged that defence procurement has long been a sector vulnerable to abuse and opaque practices, saying the newly launched National Defence Industry Policy, DIPN, was intended to prevent a repeat of failures that had weakened both governance and public trust. Dato' Sri Anwar Ibrahim said those familiar with the defence industry would recognise that procurement-related misconduct was not a new problem, describing it as a space where weak oversight, personal interest and secrecy had repeatedly undermined national priorities. Speaking at the policy's launch in the federal capital, Anwar said the policy was therefore long overdue, particularly in light of recent scandals that had shocked the country and drawn international attention, even as investigations and court proceedings were still ongoing.
Mana mungkin kita tetapkan suatu dasar pertahanan, perolehan senjata yang terbaik kalau kita masih diheret dengan kepentingan pribadi, dengan komision, dengan kekayaan.
Anwar also warned that corruption and misconduct across defence-related agencies, including the civil service and enforcement bodies, would no longer be tolerated, framing the effort to clean up the sector as a battle in itself. Last Friday, the Prime Minister announced that all procurement decisions involving the Malaysian Armed Forces, the Royal Malaysian Police and related agencies implicated in corruption allegations would be temporarily frozen until procurement procedures fully complied with governance requirements.
Pembekuan semua perolehan. Tidak harus sesiapa pun ganggu gugat. Ia mesti lalui proses yang lebih telus dan dipertanggungjawab kepada Menteri bersama KSU-nya.
He pledged full support for the new leadership of the Malaysian Armed Forces once it is decided, particularly in relation to procurement reforms. The Defence Ministry will meanwhile seek the government's consideration to continue the procurement of certain assets despite the freeze on approvals if it affects the armed forces operations and readiness. Minister Dato' Sri Khalid Nordin said MINDEF's priority remained the continuity of national defence operations. Khalid said the armed forces were carrying out continuous operations to maintain the security of the country's strategic waters and control its land and maritime borders with 5 neighbouring countries.
Kalau ada yang boleh menjejaskan operasi, kita akan mohon pertimbangan untuk diteruskan perolehan.
The Defence Minister also stressed that any procurement decision would be made based on current operational needs as well as national security interests. Meanwhile, the MACC has raided the offices of IJM Corporation Berhad and frozen 55 bank accounts involving almost 16 million ringgit as part of a probe into an alleged 2.5 billion ringgit money laundering scheme. According to a source, the MACC searched 4 locations on Tuesday, including private residences and offices linked to the construction, property development, infrastructure and industrial conglomerate. The raids followed investigations by MACC's Special Operations Division into 2 members of IJM's top management. To date, 9 statements have been recorded, including from 2 senior management personnel of the company. The MACC is investigating the conglomerate over issues involving corporate governance, procurement processes, financial transactions, and the ownership of overseas assets estimated at around 2.5 billion ringgit. The probe was being conducted under the MACC Act 2009 and the Anti-Money Laundering, Anti-Terrorism Financing and Proceeds of Unlawful Activities Act 2001. Meanwhile, IJM denied the allegations of money laundering and reaffirmed the company's full commitment to corporate governance, transparency and integrity. IJM also said that its chairman, Tan Sri Krishnan Tan, had met with MACC officers on Tuesday and said that it will continue to provide full cooperation to the authorities. In a statement, IJM said that other company employees are also providing full cooperation as part of the MACC process. IJM's operations are also unaffected following the freezing of less than 10 company accounts in relation to the relevant case. On allegations of money laundering, IJM stated that its investments in the United Kingdom since 2012 were mainly financed through financing facilities obtained from Malaysian financial institutions. According to the statement, IJM and its associates in the UK are also not aware of any investigation by London's Serious Fraud Office, SFO. The company also stressed that it has never been contacted by that agency. A diagnostic screening test will be used to determine the eligibility of 6-year-old children for Year 1 enrollment starting with the 2027 school session. In addition to passing this special test, children must have attended preschool at age 5. According to Education Minister Fadlina Siddiq, this cohort of students is expected to sit for the Sijil Pelajaran Malaysia SPM examination at the age of 16. Speaking to reporters after attending an event in Alustar, Kedah on Wednesday, Fadlina said parents must first register their children to take the diagnostic screening test this year, with the details to be announced at a later date.
Kita akan menggunakan dari semasa ke semasa, lokasi, tempat di mana itu semua, teknikalnya kita akan maklumkan. Tapi yang penting, kita tak bagi pada ibu bapa begitu sahaja.
She added the screening aims to assess children's readiness for learning and their adaptability to formal education. Parents who do not agree with the move can follow the usual pathway where children enter Year 1 at the age of 7. Fadlina also noted that this is not a new policy and has already been successfully tested, with past experience showing that some students are capable of sitting for the SPM at 16, reflecting their academic readiness and development.
Dia tetap kena 6 tahun sekolah rendah, 5 tahun sekolah menengah. Jadi kalau ada bayangan dia ambil SPM umur 16 tahun, dah ada pun anak-anak kita. Anak-anak Akademi Sains Mendang memang ambil SPM umur 16 tahun. Jadi ia bukan dasar yang baru, yang bukan kita tak biasa, kita dah ada pengalaman itu. Jadi kita tahu sebab itu kita boleh buat. Sebab kita dah ada pengalaman itu, melihat bahawa anak-anak kita ada yang telah bersedia lebih awal daripada umur dia.
On Tuesday, during the launch of the National Education Plan, RPN 2026 to 2035, the Prime Minister announced that parents will be able to voluntarily register their children for Year 1 from the age of 6, starting next year. This initiative aims to provide earlier educational opportunities for children who are academically prepared to begin formal schooling. Meanwhile, Fadlina said the Education Ministry will engage with stakeholders involved in the Unified Examination Certificate (UEC) to clarify the requirements for passing Bahasa Melayu and history. This is to ensure that the implementation aligns with the national curriculum.
Saya ingat engagement kita kena berterusan lah tentang isu ini, termasuk UEC ni. Bagi saya masa sedikit untuk saya buat engagement dengan semua pihak terkait dengan UEC ni. Sebenarnya pelajar UEC pun memang ada yang ambil SPM pun, ya? Dan kita tak ada masalah itu, mereka boleh ambil SPM.
The move follows the Prime Minister's announcement on Tuesday that all schools, including those following the UEC pathway, will be required to meet the SPM passing criteria for Bahasa Melayu and history. Social media platform X has tightened controls on its artificial intelligence AI chatbot, Grok, preventing it from being used to generate or edit harmful pornographic, sexually explicit, or other inappropriate content. Communications Minister Datuk Fahmi Fadzil said the confirmation was provided by representatives of X at a meeting held at his ministry in Putrajaya on Wednesday. He also said that further details on the matter would be presented during Thursday's Dewan Rakyat session. Fahmi added that the move reflects the company's openness to adapting its application based on international feedback in line with the needs and sensitivities of various stakeholders. Previously, the Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission, MCMC, imposed a temporary restriction on Malaysian users' access to Grok following repeated misuse of the AI to generate pornographic and sexually explicit content. The Commission was also considering possible legal action against X for failing to comply with Malaysia's online safety laws. Malaysia will clarify and redefine key terms before finalising the ratification of the Agreement on Reciprocal Trade, or ART, with the United States amid concerns over sovereignty and national interests. Investment, Trade and Industry Minister Datuk Sri Johari Abdul Ghani said earlier discussions on the deal focused mainly on economic aspects but lacked clear definitions, particularly regarding sovereignty and national interests. Citing investment treatment as an example, Johari told the Dewan Rakyat on Wednesday that the agreement does not require Malaysia to follow US preferences over other countries, but seeks to prevent discrimination against existing investors.
Akan ada banyak perkara-perkara yang perlu kita tengok dan kita bincang untuk kita meletakkan agreement sebelum kita ratify agreement secara final. Kita mesti define soal-soal isu-isu yang berbangkit yang menyebabkan ada salah anggap, contoh melibatkan kedaulatan negara dan juga kepentingan negara.
The Parliamentary Caucus on the US retaliation tariffs was established at a special meeting of the House of the People on May 5th. The ART agreement sees the White House agreeing to maintain tariffs on Malaysian products at 19%. In fact, more than 1,711 items are extended to be exempt from the tariffs.
Jadi ini proses yang kita nak kena bincang, sebab saya sebut tadi dalam jawapan saya, has got nothing to do with politics, is economy. Tetapi between economy dan menggadaikan kita punya kedaulatan, Dewan kita decide ramai-ramai kat sini.
Johari explained that the United States was among the country's important trading partners last year, with export values surpassing 233 billion ringgit. This is a 17.2% increase, with electrical and electronic products being the biggest contributor. 2026. What opportunities lie ahead for Malaysia's economy? Which sectors and reforms will influence business confidence? And as global tensions rise, where will the key opportunities lie? Muhammad Ahmad Hamdan speaks with Socio-Economic Research Centre's Executive Director Lee Heng Gui, only on Money Matters this Saturday at 5 p.m. on TV3 and stream on Tonton. Bank Negara Malaysia is widely expected to keep the overnight policy rate OPR unchanged at 2.75% when the Monetary Policy Committee MPC meets for the first time in 2026 on Thursday. Economists across major research houses see little urgency for further monetary easing amid steady growth and contained inflation, with the central bank expected to maintain a cautious, data-dependent stance. The expectation follows the 25 basis point cut delivered in July 2025, the first rate reduction since May 2023, which brought the OPR to its current level. As with previous years, the central bank has scheduled 6 MPC meetings for 2026, beginning Thursday, followed by meetings in March, May, July, September, and November. The central bank's OPR cut last year was driven by a favorable inflation outlook and the need to support growth amid easing external pressures. Man claims trial to burning down 6 houses. This and more after this breather.
Di tengah ketakutan, suara kecil ini meminta simpati.
Suara terakhir yang tidak akan pernah padam. Ini adalah kekejaman yang menghapuskan suara kecilnya.
Ini adalah pertanyaan kepada dunia. Di manakah hati dan nurani?
انت شو اسم العيلة؟ شو اسمك الكامل؟
Awak netizen.
Okey, panas guys.
Kenapa panas?
Bersangka buruk dia sudah baik.
Kutuk-kutuk depan sih.
Duduk di kongkong tu.
Ya.
Jangan main fitnah je netizen.
Tak saya yang marah, orang lain yang marah kan?
Gaduh.
Tak, bukan.
Panas. Wah, deng. Jangan lupa saksikan Melodi setiap hari Khamis pukul 9 malam di TV3.
Dan stream juga melalui tonton.
Bagi abang sayang, tu ni abang. Berjanji abang takkan sakitkan hati sayang lagi dah.
Office mate bukan, jiran pun ya. Mahal. Tadi yang kau nampak tu kau jangan fikir bukan-bukan pula. Aku cuma tolong Lin je tau.
Kau kena ingat kau tu dah kahwin.
Abang fikir sayang lah.
Wife ayam kau bukannya perempuan lain. Oh, sorry.
Saya sayang dua-dua kan.
Bisik Asmara, Isnin hingga Khamis 10 malam di Samarinda TV3.
Terus keping je.
Mesti shopping pun boleh. Siap ada diskaun lagi.
You're with us on Nightline. Malaysia has strongly condemned Israel's incursion into the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Near East, UNRWA headquarters, and the demolition of its premises in Sheikh Jarrah, East Jerusalem. In a statement on Wednesday, Wisma Putra emphasized that Israel has a clear obligation under international law to ensure that humanitarian aid can be delivered without obstruction to the Palestinian people by the United Nations, particularly UNRWA. Israel is also obliged to protect all humanitarian and medical personnel, as well as uphold the privileges, immunities, and inviolability of the UN, its premises, property, and officials, as reaffirmed by the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice dated October 22nd last year. The Foreign Ministry also called on the international community to hold Israel accountable for the ongoing serious violations of international law, including the UN Charter and relevant resolutions. An unemployed man claimed trial at the Klang Sessions Court on Wednesday to 6 counts of arson involving 6 houses that were destroyed within less than an hour last week. 44-year-old Jeffrey Johar pleaded not guilty after the charges were read out before Judge Sharifa Hasindi Said Omar. He was accused of committing mischief by fire with intent to destroy houses belonging to 6 individuals in Kampong Johan Setia, Jalan Langat on January 13. If found guilty under the Penal Code, he faces a maximum sentence of 20 years imprisonment and a fine. The judge denied him bail and set March 31st for mention. Earlier, it was reported that police detained a man with 26 previous criminal records after he was believed to have caused a fire involving 6 houses. The incidents occurred at 2 separate locations, approximately 500 meters apart. Second rail tragedy rocks Spain. The details when Nightline returns.
الو طوارئ الهلال الاحمر رام الله الضفه الغربيه عمر معك تفضل. انت شو اسم العيله؟ شو اسمك الكامل؟
هلا انت ومين كنتوا مع بعض؟
كنت اهلي.
Mesti kita akan lebih bahagia kalau kita ada cahaya mata, kan?
Puan mesti ada anak, kan? Tentu Puan faham struggle-nya nak besarkan anak seorang diri.
Kononnya saya lah punca. Kita tak ada anak.
Memfitnah tu ibarat memakan daging saudara sendiri.
Yang abang cintai sepenuh hati kan boleh termakan fitnah Nisa.
Doa yang terlindung Isnin hingga Jumaat 7 malam di Akasia TV3.
Aku nyari sekantor dengan Damia siang tadi. Antara Mel yang short circuit gila-gila tu, lebih baik aku jaga hubungan aku dengan Damia.
Nampak tak muka Mikael CCP tu? Mikael memang boyfriend man.
Saya betul cintakan awak. Betul-betul sayangkan awak, ikhlas tapi awak menjadikan saya. Awak curang, awak tahu tak?
My Stolen First Love, Jumaat dan Sabtu 9 malam di Lestari TV3 dan stream sekarang melalui Tonton.
cepat tangan. 선생님, 어깨 최고 싫어. 사랑은 왜 같은 건 없는 거거든.
난 아니라고. 난 절대 아니라고.
우리가 변호사와 살인범자로 만나게 될 줄.
Onto the foreign front. Donald Trump on Wednesday ruled out the use of force in his bid to control Greenland, but said no other country could secure the Danish territory. Speaking at the World Economic Forum annual meeting in Switzerland, the US president added that he is seeking immediate negotiations to acquire Greenland.
Because people thought I would use force. I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. He said I'm seeking immediate negotiations to once again discuss the acquisition of Greenland by the United States.
Calling Denmark ungrateful, Trump downplayed the issue, describing the acquisition as a small ask for a piece of ice, and said it would pose no threat to the NATO alliance, which includes both Denmark and the US. Trump made the comments in a closely watched economic speech that has been overshadowed by fraying transatlantic ties and tensions with Europe over his push to acquire Greenland. A train driver has been killed and at least 37 people injured after a commuter train derailed and crashed near Barcelona 2 days after a deadly two-train collision in southern Spain. Officials said the Rodalies train collided with a retaining wall, which fell onto the track between Galida and Sant Sadurní. Real officials believe the wall collapsed as the train was passing on Tuesday, hitting the driver's cab before causing significant damage to the first carriage, where most of the injured passengers were travelling. Services across Catalonia's main Rodalies commuter rail network have been suspended completely, while safety checks are carried out. The latest crash comes as Spain began 3 days of mourning for the victims of Sunday's deadly Adamus train accident. The South Korean court on Wednesday has sentenced former Prime Minister Han Duck-soo to 23 years in prison after finding him guilty on insurrection charges related to disgraced ex-president Yoon Suk-yeol's short-lived declaration of martial law. Han was found guilty of abetting Yoon's brief martial law and failing to hold a lawful cabinet meeting as required by South Korean law after the December 2024 military mobilization decree. Judge Lee Jin-gwan of the Seoul Central District Court said Han failed to uphold his duties and responsibilities as Prime Minister until the end. The court ordered Han to be detained after sentencing, citing concerns about the possible destruction of evidence. Han is the first member of Yoon's cabinet to be found guilty and sentenced to jail in relation to the martial law declaration. The gunman who killed Japan's former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has been sentenced to life in prison more than 3 years after the politician's assassination in broad daylight shocked the world. Judge Shinichi Tanaka handed down the sentence against Tetsuya Yamagami on Wednesday at a court in Nara. 45-year-old Yamagami had admitted to fatally shooting Abe in 2022 in a crime that convulsed Japan, where gun violence is extremely rare. Prosecutors said Yamagami deserved life imprisonment for his grave act. At the opening of Yamagami's trial in October, prosecutors argued that he was motivated to kill Abe by a desire to tarnish the image of the Unification Church. Sports now, the 2025 Thailand ASEAN Para Games. Malaysia kick off the first day on a positive note by winning 4 gold medals on Wednesday, with the country's first coming from cyclist Yusuf Hafizi Shahrudin in the men's individual time trial C1, C2 road event. Yusuf's 2-month training camp in Supanburi, Thailand, away from his family, paid off as the Kuala Kangsar-born athlete clocked 32 minutes, 39.887 seconds in the men's individual time trial C1, C2, delivering Malaysia's first gold of the Games. The country's second gold came from Krisana Sriujun, who defeated host nation competitor Kavikat Warut 15-12 in the men's individual EPI event. Malaysia continued its strong start on the first day with success in 10-pin bowling, as Muhammad Rizal Hassan claimed gold in the men's singles event. The fourth gold was secured by K. Parameswari in the 10-meter air rifle standing event, scoring 244 points to outshine competitors from Thailand and Indonesia. Turning to badminton, the 2026 Indonesia Masters, national men's singles shuttler Lee Zijia's perseverance paid off as he ended a 10-month winless streak to reach the second round of the Super 500 tournament in Jakarta on Wednesday. Zijia showed glimpses of his past form as he beat India's world number 35 shuttler H.S. Pranoy 21-19, 21-11 in 35 minutes. The Paris Olympics bronze medalists will meet Thailand's Panit Chapon Thirarat Sakul in the next round. Also advancing to the second round were mixed doubles world champions Cheng Tangji and To Iwei, who were pushed to the limit by the new Chinese pair Zhu Yiyun and Li Qian before winning 21-19, 20-22, 21-10. The third seed's next phase, Pakapon Thirarat Sakul and Sapsiri Therat Tanachai of Thailand. Another mixed doubles duo, Hu Pangron and Cheng Su-yin, were given a scare by the 51st ranked Thai pair of Puwanat Horban Liukit and Benyapa Imsard before winning 13-21, 21-6, 21-17. They will clash with China's world number 6 duo Goh Xinhua and Cheng Fang Hui in the second round. And that concludes Nightline this time around. Before we leave, let's take a look at the northern lights which illuminated the sky across European countries. With that, I'm Zahir, Kelvin and Abdullah. Thank you for watching and stay safe.